And if
OK,
you go there...
sorry, everyone. I do have to interrupt here now. There is some very serious breaking news tonight. The Southport murderer, Axel Rudakubana, has attacked a prison officer. The 18-year-old hurled scalding water over a prison officer. The stricken guard was rushed to hospital after the horror attack whilst police were called. This is according to The Sun. An investigation is now underway into how Axel Rudakubana got hold of boiling water to hurl over the prison officer. He is in the same terrorist unit as Hashim Abidi, who stabbed and burned guards last month. I'll just repeat that. So this is the breaking news tonight. The Southport murderer Axel Rudakubana has attacked a prison officer. The 18-year-old hurled scalding water over a prison officer and the guard has been rushed to hospital. It is the same unit, apparently, where Hashim Abidi, the monster who helped to build the Manchester Arena bomb, was being housed when he stabbed and burned prison guards last month. So this is obviously huge breaking news, so we will discuss this now. Jane, I'm putting you on the spot here, clearly,
Awful.
but what are your initial reactions?
I mean, it's just horrific, and I just hope, as I'm sure we all do, that the prison officer isn't too seriously injured. But clearly, if you have someone who is so evil, and I don't think many people in the world are evil, I like to think most people are basically good people, but from his actions and why he's in prison, he is clearly extremely evil. He shouldn't be anywhere near boiling water, those safeguards for the people working in that prison. It's just disgraceful.
Shouldn't be near anyone because he should have been hanging from the gallows.
Exactly. Bring back the death sentence.
I don't say that like for every crime, I really don't. But I think when it comes to the murder of children, particularly, that's the one crime I would say that we should really consider the death penalty for. Why are we keeping him alive? What chance of rehabilitation? What is the chance of him becoming a member of society? But alongside that, we should put more resources in those people who can become good members of society in prison and trying to help them. And the ones that are beyond redemption, they got to go.
Adam, then Barry.
Look, I'll echo what Christo just said. This man should not be alive. I am for bringing back the death sentence for monsters like this. And I might sound cold, I might sound, extreme, but I wish it would be a slow and painful death.
Yeah. Barry?
No, I don't wish a slow and painful death on anyone.
On people that kill children, I do. Sorry, Barry.
It's abhorrent, and I don't want to make any sort of political capital out of it. I think I want to know what's going on at HMP Frankland, because the fact that this has happened once was appalling and bad enough. The fact that it's now happened a second time. And, many of you who were discussing this with us, 2-3 weeks ago, when the original attack happened, were saying then these people should not be given any kitchen privileges. They should not have access to utensils. They should not have access to boiling fat and boiling water. And clearly, nothing has actually happened as it should.
Can I just say, one of the things that this makes me so angry for a variety of different reasons. The fact that this monster was able to do what he did despite being on a prevent watch list. Then everything that followed about the lack of information about him that came out. Then on top of that now, you've got the fact that he's still breathing, as far as I'm concerned. I do think that some people are beyond redemption and should have the death penalty. But then the fact that he's in the same unit that Hashim Abidi was at, and you would have thought they'd be on high alert, wouldn't you? Anyway, because of the fact that they're housing infamy. And then this individual has got access to scalding hot water. What about the prison officers? Seriously, this is the other thing I would like to say. 2 weeks ago, I think it was now, in this very room, sitting just in that corner there, we had some brave prison officers who were the dog handlers at some prisons, and they were telling me some horror stories, absolute horror stories. Can we not protect these people? We couldn't protect little girls. We couldn't protect wider society from this guy. We can't protect prison officers. What good is he alive? This guy, I'm sorry. I really, would you bring back the death penalty for this? You would, obviously.
I would. His organs would do better with someone else. I would use his organs for someone who would actually could benefit from them, because that would at least give some sort of positive coming out of what is an absolutely horrific individual. I hate him. I remember sitting and doing your show the night that he was sentenced, and the rage we all felt, and horror, and he's an awful, repellent individual.
I've got some more detail on this now. So for clarity, where they've moved Hashim Abidi to is Belmarsh, right? So it's not the same place that he did the other guy. So this is at Belmarsh. This is Axel Rudakubana has launched what they describe as a horrific pre-planned attack on a landing. And he is currently on the same unit as Hashim Abidi, who stabbed and burned guards last month. So it's at 2 different prisons now. This is emerging. It's Belmarsh in South East London, not that top security one where they lock up the other ones. I have got a police statement for you now to read. So it is that police are investigating an attack on a prison officer at HMP Belmarsh. Violence in prison will not be tolerated, and we will always push for the strongest possible punishment for attacks on our hard-working staff. Scotland Yard have also been on. They've said the Met is investigating after a prison officer was subject to a serious assault at HMP Belmarsh in the afternoon of Thursday, the 8th of May. So that's last week.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GBNews discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GBNews to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Should he not just be in solitary confinement?
Yes.
Yes.
Tommy Robinson is.
Certainly, after it's happened once already that a prison officer is injured with boiling substance, why on earth was he anywhere near, passing him food and drink through a hatch? He should be in solitary confinement.
Look, absolutely appalling. I just want to pay tribute to not just the prison officers who really work in the most awful conditions. And, there are some prisons in this country. I was speaking to somebody who had just been visiting a high security prison just last week. And he was saying that in some of the prisons, it is run with the authority of the inmates. And that's how outnumbered some of the prison officers feel. And I think we really need to give them far greater support than they have at the moment.
Barry, can I ask you, though, do you see any validity or any sense in the idea of someone like him going to having subject to the death penalty?
Look, as a matter of principle, I'm against the death penalty. I think there have been a number of cases and where somebody has been, a gentleman there said, when they're, convicted, absolutely guilty, the jury has found them absolutely unanimously decided that they're guilty. And then a few years later, something else has come to light.
I get that. I get that.
Now, I'm not saying that's
fair enough.
Yeah.
No, can I just say? I really do think that's fair enough.
Yeah.
But obviously, I imagine the point that's making you all sense is the fact that this guy's definitely guilty.
Yes, but
a lot of those cases were before DNA as well.
My point would simply be this, and that is that if somebody is guilty of a heinous crime, and you said against children, murdering children, it wouldn't matter whether it was the nurse, Lucy Letby, whose case has since been called into question. She would have been found guilty. She would have died, and I don't know whether she's guilty or not. Well, she's guilty in law.
Sorry, I will come to you, Adam, but I've just got a little bit more information here. Thank you, Barry. Sorry. I've just got a little bit more information here. So this is a source quoted in The Sun, who have got the inside scoop on this. It seems miraculous that the prison guard, who they say was a man, was not more badly hurt, and luckily the water was not mixed with other substances. Other officers heard him screaming and heard commotion, and one of the first things they did was put cold water on him. They also restrained Rudakubana and made sure he could not do anything worse to the guard, which the implication there, of course, is that he wasn't obviously stopping of his own accord, was he? His regime will now be incredibly strict, and he will
Why wasn't it?
And he will barely come into contact with anyone, and he will be fed through a hatch.
Look, we have a man here that, in cold blood, has slit the throats of beautiful, little, innocent girls. It's the most horrific crime I've heard in years. And he is not in solitary confinement. He has more freedoms and more rights and can enjoy his prison stay more than someone like Tommy Robinson. You don't have to like Tommy Robinson, and you do not have to agree with some of the things he says. That man is in solitary confinement 23 hours a day.
For his own safety.
In health.
For his own safety.
And for his own safety, because our prisons are being run by extremists.
Okay.
We need to bring the army in, I think, to help these guards.
Okay, all right, guys, let's everyone, I wanted to not lose sight of the actual story in hand here, which is that breaking news. If you are just joining us, by the way, that Axel Rudakubana, the Southport murderer, has, according to The Sun, attacked a prison officer with boiling water. I think to come back to the main point here, which is that that all of his victims have had either life-ending or life-changing injuries. All of the officers and paramedics that will have been involved in that will quite possibly never be the same again, having had to witness what they witnessed. And the idea that this guy was clearly not in the strictest prison. I just think we all assumed he would be. I think we all just assumed that this guy would be locked up, fed through a hatch.
Yeah.
How long has he even been in prison? I mean, he was like a few months, 6 months or something like that. Been in prison 6 months, and he's just in a normal cell, in a normal thing, wandering around by the looks of things.
No, it's in Belmarsh.
In Belmarsh, it's nice, but I mean, look, it doesn't really necessarily feel like justice has been done for this guy, does it?
No.
Really?
No, and it makes you think, as Barry was saying, some of our prisons are being run by cliques of inmates. Don't let them mix. Why are they allowed to mix with one another at all? If you are a danger, you're ganging up against prison staff, you need to be restricted, you need to protect. That should be the first thought to protect prison officers.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. So we are going to be joined now by GB News' Home and Security editor, Mark White, who is down the line for us as well, on the screen as well, for everyone who's in the studio. Mark, thank you very much for joining us. What do we know so far, though?
Good morning, everyone, or even good evening, everyone. I just want to start by urging a little bit of caution. I understand that feelings are running high, and you know, it is understandable given who Axel Rudakubana is and the allegations against him. But this is now an active police investigation. The case is active. We need to be careful about how we describe the events. These are alleged events. Everybody at some point, of course, will have to be given a due and fair process in the criminal criminal justice system. He's already, of course, serving some 52 years in prison, but there will be, at the end of the day, another charge likely in a court proceeding with potentially even more years added to his sentence. And like everyone else, no matter what we think of this individual, he has to have a fair trial at the end of the day. So that's just, for what it's worth, just that note of caution in the way we're describing the events. If we put an alleged or two in there, you're fine. It's alleged that this incident happened yesterday, that Axel Rudakubana was in his cell at the time and heated up boiling water in his cell. Now, if in the fullness of time, if the police investigation shows that to be the case, then there are clearly serious questions to be asked about how an individual in a maximum security prison, in a section of the prison which is especially catering for the most serious offenders, could have access to a facility where water, for instance, can be turned into boiling water, which of course then can become a weapon. Now, the officer, the prison officer, we're told did suffer some serious injuries and is being treated for those scalds as a result of this incident. And you're right in mentioning the fact that Hashim Abedi was at this very prison in this same unit, because he had been involved in another alleged incident at HMP Frankland in County Durham on the 12th of April, when a number of prison officers were attacked, substance thrown over them in terms of boiling oil that was thrown over one officer, other officers that were stabbed. That is still part of an ongoing investigation. So definitely some questions, I think, for the authorities within the prison system to look at now in terms of what these prisoners, especially those who are found guilty of the most serious of crimes that do pose a real and present risk to prison officers, just how they're managed in prison. It doesn't seem, from what we hear from the Prison Officers Association, about the number of attacks that prison officers have to endure on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. These are just the high-profile incidents we hear about. But attacks on prison officers are happening every day in prisons up and down the country. So something certainly needs to be addressed here.
Yeah, Mark, thank you very, very much for all of that information, some much needed clarity as well on a couple of things. Just on the prison officer side of things, they have been calling recently for things like stab-proof vests and for greater protections, I think maybe even to carry tasers and things like that as well. Presumably this alleged incident will increase calls for that.
Yes, without a doubt. I mean, it seems incredible that prison officers who deal with the most violent of offenders, people who've actually been convicted of those crimes, do not have access to that personal protective equipment as a matter of course. You put a police officer out on the street, then they're wearing personal protective equipment. You put ambulance personnel out on the street now, and they will often be wearing stab vests as well. So why on earth are prison officers denied that? Well, we're told from the Prison Officers Association that one of the reasons given to them is that it would actually add to more tension within the prison, that putting stab vests and other personal protective equipment on officers would up that sort of ante, if you like, in the threat level, and it might be counterproductive. You know, the Prison Officers Association would argue that it wouldn't be counterproductive. What it would be doing would be actually protecting these officers who are being attacked all too frequently now, not just in the way of stab vests, but also the potentially taser, pava spray, that kind of thing, to give them a level of protection should things go south.
Mark, just quite briefly, if you could, what do we know, if anything, about this unit where Axel Rudakubana has been held?
Well, it's a maximum security unit within a maximum security prison. This is the issue. But you still have prisoners who come out, and there's an amount of mixing that they're clearly able to do within the unit, and that's one of the big issues, I think, going forward as well. If you are deemed to be the most violent of offenders, someone who poses a real risk to prison officers, should you effectively be confined to your cell, out for exercise maybe an hour a day, and meals given to you in your cells? It sounds, of course, like strict and harsh punishment, but many will argue that strict and harsh punishment is exactly what's required for very violent offenders.
Mark, look, thank you very much. It's Mark White there, GBNews' Home and Security Editor. It's always great to have you on. Thank you very much for reacting so quickly and coming on and explaining so much of that for us. Right, look, obviously, tensions are running high here. Emotions will run very, very high. And we're going to draw a line under this particular topic for now. And we'll return to it if we get any more information as well. But in light of what Mark was saying, realistically, we now have to try to let justice do its course, and presumably this will at some point be an active case. So we've said what we've said. We move on from it now.